Agent Power Huddle is a daily jumpstart, giving you all the tools you need to create an amazing real estate career. Led by top experts in the field, you'll learn how to sell more houses in less time while creating the life you want. Welcome to the Agent Power Huddle.
Good morning, everybody. It's a great Thursday. I am Jenn Sells in Denver, Colorado, and we are waiting for people to join. I guess there were some technical difficulties this morning for some people. I'm Jenn. I'm in Denver with EXP, and today I have Katrina co-hosting with me, and we are going to cover part 2 of 10 ways to lose your license or, get in trouble. So take it over, Katrina.
All righty, I will. Just messaging Autumn right now to go ahead and give me the capability of sharing my screen. And we'll go ahead and get started. You guys, I am in San Francisco Bay Area. And so I'm super excited because we'll get 2 perspectives since Jen's in Colorado, I'm in California. So that'll cover a little bit more of the country. And the good thing is that we actually got this list. It's inspired by a post that was on NAR's website, National Association of Realtors. And so I think you guys are going to enjoy delving into a lot of these topics. So go ahead and, there we go.
Yeah. So 10 ways to lose your license. Actually, it is a NAR course. I encourage everyone in the room to jump onto NAR and take that course. But more specifically, if you have one in your state, please run and take that course. I got the topic for the last few weeks because we are often on the real estate forums on Facebook, and I constantly see things that can get people into trouble. So, we covered a few of the topics last week. We'll kind of skim over them in our presentation today. And then we're going to probably focus a lot on the mortgage part of it today. So, and Katrina is also a lender. So
I am. I have the pleasure of doing so. So I want to... Canva is doing things it's never asked me to do before. I think I went into a different mode. So let's get out of there real quick. Present full screen. There we go.
All right. So it's not working like it did yesterday, Katrina.
No. It just has so many options that we get to play with. So we went over mishandling funds a little bit last week. And that is something that is really important to be aware of, to make sure that, especially as realtors, that we're very hands-off when it comes to the money. The main thing is to make sure that we don't actually interact with it at all. And the great thing is, it's funny, being in real estate now for both of us have been in the real estate for over 22 years. And in the beginning, we used to actually get physical checks and have to take them to title companies and things like that.
Actually, sometimes still do, Katrina. So,
do you?
Yeah.
No, I absolutely am like, no, wire, or here's the address. Don't give me that. I don't want it.
Well, let's skip off one because we already kind of had it last week. Misrepresentation.
Yes, we went over misrepresentation and how to make sure that you're not misrepresenting your client or anything about the property in any way.
Full disclosures.
Yes.
Let's come back to this one.
We are
going back to this one.
We are guitars. Well, the one we're going to delve into quite a bit today as far as being involved in mortgage fraud. Making sure that you don't have any criminal convictions, and pretty much this is governed mostly by your board. So about your Department of Real Estate in your state. So that's not anything you really have to. I think that you really have to worry about because I do know some people whose licenses were restricted or revoked for this. So it's something you want to make sure that does not affect your real estate business. Non-cooperation with investigators. So if any time there's the Department of Real Estate, where your state has to come and investigate a transaction, be as open as possible. The more transparent you are and more cooperation, the less likely this will affect your license in any way.
Well, we covered this one a lot last week.
Yes, we did.
Let's skip it. They can go back and watch part one if they want to.
Yeah, go back and watch the first call because we did delve into this one quite a bit. As well as lack of supervision, especially if you have a team or if you have agents, even if you have an assistant who is unlicensed, which I believe it goes into a little bit more as well. We talked about this last week. You want to make sure that can definitely affect your license. And it's probably the most common one.
On that one too, I really wish that the real estate forums would have some skin in the game or what they are allowed to post and what they don't. And I do suggest if you are on those forums that you should ask your broker on probably before you put it out to the group, because I think it sets up some liability. It could set up some liability in the future. If somebody ever wanted to say that you weren't being supervised, the evidence is often on the real estate forums. So
that's true.
Throw that way.
And especially because the forums are nationwide and there are certain things that pertain to your local situation, not just your state, but even your municipality. So you really want to kind of stay away from that.
Yeah. The next one that we have is undisclosed dual agency. And I think this is a pretty big thing that's going to be happening in the future, especially as the real estate industry changes or morphs again. The more we are representing both sides, in Colorado, we call it transaction brokerage. In other states, there are dual agency. And there you go. I said again. In other states, there are dual agencies. We don't have that in Colorado. But I think we're really going to have some issues if we're not super careful. And yesterday, Katrina and I were talking about this in preparation today.
Yes. Yeah, because it's part of the reason why buyer representation came up in the first place was because of issues with dual agency in the past. And so with the current state of what's going on with commission conversations, I believe this is a conversation that you can utilize with sellers when you're having the commission conversation as to why it is in their best interest to pay full commission and give us the opportunity to split that commission with the buyer's agent in order to make sure that everyone's protected. Real fast, Sam had a question about the criminal activity. So as a listing agent, do we need to take any action if a cooperating agent has a restricted license because of criminal conviction and lists his broker as additional agent? I don't see any reason why we would have to take any action. But again, that's a conversation to have with your broker to see if they would have any issue with it. But I don't see any reason why. Just because someone has a restricted license, let's put it this way, if their license is restricted, but your state still allows them to do business, they're just aware of the criminal activity, but they're saying based on the criminal activity that they're aware of, they're allowed to utilize their restricted license as far as I know. Jen, what do you think?
I concur. I think if you are licensed in a state, you have the right to show houses and write contracts. So defer to your employing broker on that question, because I don't know all the rules nationwide.
Right. Okay. Unauthorized practice of law. I want to test this a tiny bit, because when I first got started in real estate, I remember people saying, well, in the contract, like when reading contracts, well, we're just, we have to be as knowledgeable as attorneys are. Right. Just don't say it. Don't even, don't even bring that up. Always defer to if an attorney is actually necessary. But
I do want to bring up a point here. I don't know if you finished that statement, Katrina.
yeah, no. Uh-huh.
But Winston wants to be part of the show today. So hi, Winston, say hi. Additional provisions in your contract. I know that in the state of Colorado, every brokerage is supposed to have pre-written additional, the quotes at the bottom, how they want it written for post-occupancy, how they want it written for, anything that can come out of contract. Your broker should have language for it. I do think there's a fine line in practicing law when we are putting stuff into additional provisions, and you better be really careful. I know that in our Colorado 10 ways to lose your license, there was several examples in additional provisions that caused agents to be fined at a really high level, agents to have to pay for things, agents to lose their license. If you are writing something in additional provisions, you are basically practicing law, and you really should probably run that through somebody above you at your brokerage.
Yes, that's absolutely true. I believe in every state we have access to a legal department for our state real estate commission. Definitely reach out to them. I reach out to California Association of Realtors, Car Legal, all the time for stuff like this. Like, hey, run this by and make sure it's okay.
And if
highly recommend.
And if your brokerage does not have pre-written clauses, please reach out to them and ask them why, because you should say it.
Yes.
Okay.
And then the final one before we actually go back to mortgage fraud, failure to meet licensing requirements. So continuing to practice and you haven't done your CEs and your license has expired and you're operating under expired license. I've seen this one happen many times. So that is something you want to make sure that you don't allow to happen, basically, in the when it affects your business.
Okay.
All right. Let's go back to the fun one.
Yeah, let's go back to the fun one. A few things came up. I was seeing locally and on the national level, but mostly locally, some agents that were posting or copying verbiage from lenders, and they're putting it on their Facebook page. I don't want to put up examples because a lot of the people I actually, help, and they were putting up interest rates for the day, literally quoting them. And I've reached out to them and I've said, as real estate agents, we cannot do that. And this is not fraud, by the way. I just want to be clear, but it's in the mortgage arena, so I want to talk about it a little bit. We are not allowed to quote injuries. And I think that there are several agents out there that just do it because they copy it from the lender's page, they put it on theirs, and they think that that's great and that's fine. It's not. You have to have a license for that. You have to be really careful doing it. And we have some really cool points to talk about that are gray areas, maybe not with that particular thing. We're going to talk about it.
So I want to share with you guys a story, and it kind of leads into how I became a lender in addition to being a real estate agent. Back around 2008, so right before all of the mortgage issues that we had in this country, I was at an investment seminar, and someone at the time, I had a buyer who was flipping properties, who was running out of cash to obtain those properties. And he was like, I need to find some private money. And I was like, oh, okay. So I happened to be at an investment seminar. A realtor who was also an investor, whoever the speaker was, said, hey, raise your hand if you have money you have money to lend? And this guy raised his hand. And all I said to him was, hey, I know somebody who's looking for money they already have a property under contract. He's like, really? Like, yeah, I'll connect you guys. And so I connected them via email. And in that email thread, one person, the buyer had said, this is how much money they were looking for. I was on the chain of the thread. And then the person responded with, okay, this is how much I want back as my return on my investment. This is my interest. Because I was on that thread and I introduced them, I was brokering a deal as a lender, even though I did not actually write up anything. So the mortgage debacle happens in 2008, and that client couldn't flip that property because no one could get loans on properties. And that investor came after me and my broker and my E&O insurance because he wanted his money back, because technically I had brokered a deal, even though he was a real estate agent and investor. Yeah, it's lesson learned. It was a really $1,000, and luckily E&O covered most of that. So, but it was quite the eye opener, and I'd never even thought about it before.
Yeah, and so yesterday when we were talking about this, I said, I think this is a really important story to tell all the agents that will eventually see this, because especially today in real estate, we're dealing with cash offers. We're dealing with the interest rates that certain people have, a lot of homeowners have, are lower than possibly the interest rate that you could get from a lender. And so we're dealing with a lot of people who want to sell or carry. We're dealing with a lot of cash investors. We're dealing with a lot of like weird, funky stuff that we have dealt with over the years, but we're getting more and more and more of them right now. So it's kind of a scary thought to think that you're trying to help somebody and you say something along the lines, wow, what if we can put together this and talk to this person and find out at the end that you ended up brokering a deal. Katrina, you made a good point yesterday. You said nothing is wrong until something's wrong. Like everything's perfectly fine until somebody complains, right?
Right. Because people have been doing this for years. And I firmly believe, had we not had the mortgage implosion of 2008, this would never have come up. But because it did, and this gentleman lost his money, is the reason why it did. But I'm grateful for it, because it was a learning experience. I get to share that experience, and then led me to getting my mortgage license later on, so that I do have the opportunity, which also leads me back to what you were saying as far as quoting interest rates. Because Lynn just asked, can you share a lender's post? You can share a lender's post as long as you refer to that post. So the same way that if you are sharing another listing agent and you have to talk about that listing agent in sharing their property, the same thing you have to do with if you're sharing rates that your lender gave yourself, sharing their rate sheet. Make sure that if you're doing an Instagram reel, that rate sheet is on your green screen, or that you're holding it up like you're referring to. But in my opinion, just don't quote the rate. You can say the range, and you can say, based on this, I'm seeing numbers in the mid 5s to the mid 6s. You could say that, but do not quote anything, because you are not a licensed lender.
I have a different view, Katrina. I don't think we should share a lender's rate sheet. I don't think we should share their post that says the interest rates are this today. I don't think we should say anything about rates.
I hear you, but remember that there are times that that you have co-marketing with a lender for your open house and things like that. There are actual co-marketing opportunities with the lender, so people are going to do that. So if you're going to, this is the way to share it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I agree with that. But here's the problem with that. And I mean, it's kind of getting off subject a little bit, but every person that's going to get a loan has a different scenario. So if you as an agent are sharing that social media and somebody calls you up and gets into that conversation, and you refer them to the lender, and the interest rate is 1% higher or something, it can kind of come back on you. And I just like to let the lenders be the lenders and agents be the agent. That's where I stand on, anything like that. I don't want to be in trouble for anything. Let's go back to that subject again to, once upon a time, we used to be able to write as agents seller carries. We cannot do that anymore. And we have to refer it to a lender. Kind of scary stuff that we used to be able to do. Anyways.
Right. You said now in there's BC and AD. I like to refer to like before 2008 and after 2008, like things that could happen. Because all these new guidelines came up and trade guidelines and all all these different acts came from everything that happened. And so like you said, we used to be able to write seller carries before this. None more. And refer to a lender or an attorney who specializes in that can write up seller financing agreements.
Okay, so let's talk about mortgage fraud. Actually, like getting into that. NAR talks about people writing in the down payment, inflating the price and writing in the down payment. Of course, that's mortgage fraud. I think that as agents, sometimes we will increase the price and write in a closing cost. And when you get in the habit of doing that, you're not thinking a lot. Or I do, I think, but newer agents or inexperienced agents, maybe they don't think about the replicate, they're trying to get creative and they do things and they may not know that it's mortgage fraud.
Yes. Because I think people lump together closing costs and down payment and don't realize that they're separate. So the whole purpose of the requirement of a down payment is for a lender to see that you have skin in the game. So why is there better interest rates when you have more money down? Because more skin in the game you have in the property, then the less risk the lender has. And so the whole purpose of the down payment is the lender wants to see that borrower actually has a connection to this property, not just emotionally, but financially. And so it's also the reason why when you use down payment assistance programs that the interest rates are higher, because technically you have no skin in the game. And so that's why there's all these different hurdles and different requirements for down payment assistance programs. And the reason why 100% financing looks good, but it actually does not benefit the client. So when you're going to write up offers and you're increasing a price for a credit back, that can only be for closing costs or a seller buy down, interest rate buy down from the seller as a seller credit. But other than that, it cannot be towards down payment. Also, another version of mortgage fraud is if you're speaking to a client, and this happens a lot when the client is a relative, and you know that the source of their funds is coming from some other place than it should be, and you help guide them through, here's how you make that legal money. That's mortgage fraud.
Rita, this is why I say the lender does the lender's job. The realtor does the realtor's job. Let's keep it that way, okay? If there's a conversation about the loan, yes, you can not pre-qualify. You can have a slight conversation in the middle. I mean, at the very beginning. And then you pass them off. And then you say, I'm sending you to the money guy. Right. Have your conversations there. I don't want to know where your money is coming from. I'm sorry, I don't. I don't want to get into those conversations. It can set you up for issues. This is what we're trying to tell you. Yeah. Another one, are you done with that subject? Because I have a couple more. So, buying a home as a primary Okay.
You mean saying you're buying a home as a primary?
Yeah. So if you've been in the business at all, I guarantee you that someone has said, well, the interest rates on a primary home are less. On an investment home, they're more. Why don't we just say we're buying it? No. Okay. I'm even afraid to say it out loud, right? But yes, this happens, and that is mortgage fraud. So if you know that's happening as an agent, I suggest you step away.
I will say there is one caveat to this, though.
Okay.
FHA allows you to buy two homes if they're 100 miles apart from each other. And let's say for work purposes, you work in one area part of the time and you work in that other area part of the time, or you and your spouse work in your buyers work. They're allowed to do two FHA loans as primary residences as long as they are more than 100 miles apart. But that is the only time that is possible.
But I'm not even going to get into that, because on an FHA loan, how often would you do an FHA loan?
As a lender, I do them all the time. I probably do majority of FHA.
No, not FHA loans, but two homes.
Oh, I do them quite often, actually.
Okay.
Because in the Bay Area, well, in Northern California, people do long commutes. And so it does actually happen quite often here in California.
Interesting.
I know. Crazy.
The other one that we are not dealing with so much now, but when the market's really hot, we deal with a lot of post-occupancy agreements. Yeah. And I personally dealt with a ton of buyers and a ton of sellers back in 2020, 2021, 19 even. And the post-occupancies were getting to be like, people wanted 75 days. People wanted 4 months. People wanted all these crazy numbers. And it kind of puts an agent in a sticky situation when that happens, because on FHA loans, I believe it's 60 days. And on the rest of the loans, I believe it's 90 that you can do post-occupancies for. You have anything to say about that?
Well, because Sima actually just asked the question that we were going to address, which is asking for a security deposit. You absolutely should have a security deposit.
Well, no agreement is an agreement without
consideration.
Remember, I'm looking at.
I got you.
My brain. Well, so yes, you need a security deposit, and the longer they stay, the bigger the security deposit. I think it's skin in the game, right? So if they're going to stay for 3 days and something happens to whatever, do you have enough to cover the issues?
And Jen, I don't remember if it was you who told me this or someone else told me this recently, that they also have a per diem after whatever the agreed upon time frame is. So for instance, and that it escalates in order to basically not have that occupant take advantage of already being in the property.
Well, in the state of Colorado, we have it written into the contract. So if you are not out by a certain date, whatever the number is that we put in, mine's usually $350 a day, unless of course, well, that's on an average price home.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're talking $1 million homes, it might be $500 to $1,000 a day.
Yes, that is true. But basically making sure that all of that is, and making sure you have an actual lease agreement, not just a seller rent back agreement, especially if you're in a state that has rent control ordinances, because, oh my gosh, can that exacerbate a situation? Because technically, as soon as they're there, 31 days, they are now tenant, no matter if they were the previous owner or not.
I was checking the chats really.
Yeah, I was too.
I don't see it. Okay, so mortgage fraud. There's a bunch of different things. I suggest you take the course if you are ever doing anything that you question, please call your managing broker. And there you have it. It's 9:30 right now. Next week, we're going to come back and we're going to do
next week we're doing digital pollution.
That's what I'm so excited
about that topic.
Yes, because I think that is the number one interferer with production is digital.
So. Look, let's just state plainly, it's the time suck of our lives.
It is digital pollution. All right. Well, thank you guys for coming, and we will see you next week.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you'd like more information or to get connected to the Agent Power Huddle, join our free Facebook group. This call was designed for the agents in our EXP organization, but open to any agent from any brokerage. If you're a guest and you're interested in learning more about EXP or our specific resources within the Agent Collective, reach out to the person who invited you to this call to get more info. Produced by the Agent Collective Media Network.